88.5 of FM, and this is where we continue our second part of House Guest for today. Let me welcome Manageress. Yeah, I have to take a deep breath because I do not want to say the mayor. So I actually have to say the manager of the PMA. And as we all know, Peter Management Area.
Yes,
A
good
special
morning.
good morning to you, Mrs. Hippolyte. It's a pleasure to have you here in another portfolio, if I am to say. To our listening audience, welcome to another broadcast of House Guest. And it's more or less brief for sensitization in terms of the PMA. A lot of us are not aware what the PMA is about, the functions and roles of the PMA. So Mrs. Hippolyte is here more or less to actually share some information. Again, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning. Thank you again, Cabrina, for having me in a different capacity. I just want to inform the public and to create a sense of awareness in terms of what the PMA is all about, because sometimes persons ask, some people may know and some may not know. So the PMA encompasses this area in Soufrière, which has some of the world's attractions, those that are of outstanding value in terms of the pitons, the sulfur springs, which are the main. And then we also have the botanical gardens, waterfalls, nature trails, and some of the endemic species that can be found on the Gros Piton and Petit Piton as well. Well, the Piton management area, it actually um, boundaries with Ancivoin on the other side of the Piton, Gros Piton, and all the way to the east with Belle Plaine and parts of Fort Jacques, all the way through to Soufrière town and part of the marine area as well. So all of this encompasses the Piton management area. Now, many persons may not know, and they simply look at what is the monument, which is found along the road as you traverse past Stonefield Estate or on your way down as you pass Scuba Rail and the Gap to Sugar Beach. There is the monument um, right there, which is the inscription site, which gives the date when we became part of the World Heritage Site, which is on the 30th of June 2004. The main thing with regards the Piton management area, what it is that we are supposed to do as an office or as a body is to ensure that the developments that take place within that zone do not hamper our status. And there are specific things that the developers are supposed to follow and specific things that we are supposed to report if we encounter any challenges in terms of conserving what is the natural beauty or outstanding, universal outstanding value of that area. I recently joined the office on the 4th of January of this year. So I am still in a learning process, learning about the PMA. I have done extensive reading about it, but it is very interesting. And what we are really trying to do at this point in time is to create an awareness and to start off or revamp what we call the Piton Management Club to get young persons interested in knowing what the PMA is about and to help us spread the word among their friends, in their schools, and as they grow older, to be persons who will be proud of their patrimony.
How would you go about forming that club? You go to the schools and meet the principals.
Well, we started off with the Super Comprehensive School. In that club was originally initiated in April of 2020, but because of the COVID pandemic, um, the activities were on a little dormant. And in the initial stages, we had students from different secondary schools around the island, and it poses a little problem when we want to get them together. So what we are trying to do now is to get students from different secondary schools who are from Soufrière and who are interested in being part of the Piton management Area Club. So we have gone to the Soufrière Comprehensive Secondary School, and we have, introduced the idea to them, and distributed some forms. So for those who are interested, they would let their parents, be aware of it. So their parents would also have to consent, because what we were hoping to do is to start off with an activity for World Earth Day, which is on the 22nd of April, and to initiate some kind of interest in the Pitois Management Club. Then we usually have activities for our anniversary, which is the 30th of June, and also a summer camp for young people from Soufrière, which we're hoping to have in July of this year.
Are there any age criteria?
Well, we also interested in getting young adults. So, for example, we may have the students, but if we can get teachers or even persons like you or anybody who's interested in environmental science or nature or conservation of our cultural and natural heritage, all persons in that regard, persons who are interested in national trust as well, we would welcome them to be part of the club. But basically we are focusing on the youth, but we would also want young adults as well, those who are interested.
Okay. I think it's welcoming for persons who are actually tuning in and just listening as well. They can come into your office and get a form to fill, have a discourse with you in terms of what is not really clear to them as well. And to the children, of course, the schools you've made the contact with, I appeal and implore to them that those who are interested indicate by filling up the form. Um,
Yeah.
Oftentimes, with any and everything, protection and requirements of the PMA, because everything in terms of the heritage sites fall within the PMA.
Yeah.
So there needs to be protection and, of course, the requirements. You can speak to us about it?
Well, in terms of conserving and protecting the Pitois management area, we have what is called a LAC study, which is something that was done in 2013. And it gives guidelines as to what is expected of the developers in that area. And most of the development that would take place would most likely be in terms of hotels and bigger developments, because we know that this is a livelihood area, and the PMA is made up of a certain percentage being that of crown lands and privately owned lands. Now, we cannot dictate to persons what they should do on their land, but at least there is a guideline as to, what is expected. So, for example, the hotels we have in that area, we would there's certain criteria in terms of the colors that they use, that they would not use red roofs or orange roofs, something that is glaring in the environment. We would prefer greens and browns and colors that would blend in with the environment, not white as well. So what we do is there are periodic times, well, twice annually or biannually, where we go out and we take pictures. So that is a viewpoint monitoring exercise where we take photos from specific GPS on the sea, as well as on land, terrestrial, and marine. And we compare it with what was the baseline photo in 2013. And if we observe any drastic changes, and we also do on site visits, we would bring it to the attention of the owners. And I'm sure that you may have heard 2 years ago there was a big uproar for development on the Piton.
Yes.
And this was of concern to us and of concern to National Trust and other persons who are interested in the patrimony of St. Lucia. The owner, somebody purchased land, you cannot really tell them don't, because it's their land, but we can give them guidelines. Fortunately for us, with our last viewpoint monitoring activity, which was done on the 16th of January of this year, from the sea, there's no visible disturbance in terms of the last picture from the 2013 to now. Thankfully, the vegetation is growing nicely and it blocks off that view from the sea. So if somebody were to take a photo from there, they would say, well, there's nothing happening except if you have an aerial view. And again, with the aerial view, that's one of the reasons why we would, appeal to the owners to use colors that blend with the environment.
Okay. Adding to that as well, I think 2 to 3 years back, a mapping exercise took place where some drones were involved, as well as some students from either Vermont. They did come down
Yes.
mapping in terms of our whole the World Heritage Site, and a lot of us were not really aware. So then they came, and then the mapping exercise was done, and the purpose of it was actually for persons to, on their devices, access, the point locations for the different sites, the do's and don'ts. To date, I'm not too sure what is really happening as well. If you have any clarity, any information, you can maybe tell us, bring us up to speed, you know.
Well, we have that information, but I'm not fully aware of all the details. But I know that they had this team of persons who came, and it's done periodically that they come and they assist. And I know they did that mapping exercise, but to be honest, I don't have the details of it. But one of the things we're hoping to do as well is to um, demarcate the boundaries, and whether it is be physically or by GPS, then we will inform the public. And also we have a few other activities that we're hoping to do. We have our plan of activities for the year, and one of it is to set up signs to clearly mark where the Piton management area starts and where it ends, on the road, like as you come into Soufrière from Kachime, we would have one sign there, on as well at Myers Bridge. Yeah, so we would have a sign saying welcome to Piton management area or the World Heritage Site, whichever one of the two that we decide on.
I think that is needed as well. Also, when you hear of World Heritage Site, what comes to mind? What? Because a lot of us are lost. We're not too sure what it is even.
Okay, so areas around the world that has achieved that status have achieved it based on a set of criteria. That's a large set. You must have um, outstanding universal value in whatever it is that you're using. So for us in Soufrière and Lucia, thankfully, is from Soufrière. There's nowhere else in the world where you will get twin peaks that are so outstanding. So anytime someone would see these twin peaks, the only place you'd think of is Soufrière or St. Lucia or even the Caribbean, because some people use it, for their logo or, for location, or I am identifying with Soufrière or St. Lucia, the beautiful twin peaks, the majestic peaks. And this is something that stands out. Also, many places around the world have sulfur springs, but ours is the only one where you can literally drive into the world's only drive-in volcano. Now, there are other countries who would laugh at us when we talk about waterfalls, because our waterfalls are just like a trickle, just a little trickle. But there aren't many that have warm water trickling from some part or some rock. Most of the waterfalls are cold water, and it's in a large volume of water, because how can we compare our waterfalls with that of Canada or other huge waterfalls where a lot of large volume of water is poured? So yeah, Niagara and so on. Yes, there are so many of them. So we have these two specific ones, and we also have the endemic species of some animals and plants that can only be found on Gros Piton or on the pitons and nowhere else. So these are some of the things that makes Soufrière or St. Lucia, that cause us to gain the World Heritage status. So like we are one of the sites.
Thank you so much for that. What does it mean for a site to be inscribed on the World Heritage list, and Windows and Lucia is definitely placed on there?
Well, it adds value to the destination, because even before we were a World Heritage Site or we had achieved that status, we had tourists coming to St. Lucia. And for this very same reason, they want to come to visit because of the Twin Peaks, or they want to come to visit to bathe in the sulfur springs. And that's something that not many other countries are able to do, to actually get to this place and to bathe, within the sulfur springs area. And so this has added, it's added value for the tourism market. And this is something that we're hoping to do um, in terms of a survey. Hopefully next month, we have an intern coming in to assist us. So we would have a survey from finding out from the visitors, are they aware that it is a World Heritage Site? Is that why they visited, or they're just visiting just because they know of the sulfur springs and the Peter and that kind of thing?
Okay. But even when we hear of World Heritage Convention and World Heritage Site, um, what are the linkages?
Well, it is the same in the sense that it is countries that have the World Heritage Site status that come together to discuss ways and means of conserving the natural and cultural heritage, and also to, set plans in place for any challenges that we may encounter. Because as you would be aware, this is a livelihood area where people live, and we would want things to happen to provide for the people. So, for example, we cannot debar the hotels from developing because they provide livelihoods, they provide jobs for persons and the economy of the country as well. But there is limited acceptable change. Like, yes, you can develop, but within certain boundaries. So sometimes somebody may say, well, it's my land, I bought my land. And so they have to go through the channels, they have to go through planning, the Ministry of Planning, or they would have to go through DCA, Development Control Authority, in terms of what they can and cannot do.
In all fairness, our people dismiss when it comes to knowledge, the PMA, the do's and don'ts. They're not too interested because they're saying, first and foremost, what do I get to benefit? And if it's not bringing in the monies for me, why should I even get involved or pay much attention to that? So here's what I'm saying to you. I mean, as the manager of the PMA, for sure, what would you like to see happen in your tenure? What big changes would you want, especially for surfer?
Well, I want to create that awareness even more because, like I said, it's right here in Soufriere, and you may ask the ordinary man on the street, or even child, or sometimes even a teacher, what is the PMA all about? What does it entail? How are we benefiting from that? And they may just shrug their shoulder and say, I don't know. But in essence, for example, the SRDF is in charge of the Peter and the Sulphur Springs. Now, in terms of gaining revenue from these two areas of outstanding value, yet we are the ones managing it, or supposed to be managing it. And we have to have a collaboration with SRDF and with us, so that we can work together to, create greater awareness, to develop it further, maybe create some memorabilia that represents the Piton or the Sulphur Springs. We have some exercise books that were published a few years ago that we're hoping to continue to publish. But again, the PMA does not generate any source of income. So we will have to try to get a source of income either from the persons who are gaining revenue from these um, outstanding sites, that's the Piton and the Sulphur Springs. And we're also trying to see if we can license the Pitons as a trademark, so that persons out there who are already utilizing the Pitons, for example, the brewery, to see if they can, we can generate some income from them from using the Piton, because there isn't any copyright. And so persons are using it, at their own free will. So we have to find ways and means of raising some kind of revenue, generate some kind of revenue for us to go further. So, for example, like I said, we can publish more of these exercise books. which have information on the inside and distribute to students, or when we have our comps and stuff like that.
Okay. Can I correctly say that it's a non-governmental agency, is it?
It is a government agency. It is. It actually, we are within the Department of Sustainable Development. We used to be with planning, but it has shifted. But although it entails both aspects, but we are currently under the Ministry of Sustainable Development, because our telephone numbers 468 6650 5152 is part of the government network. Yeah.
Okay. 3 minutes moving up to the hour. Just before you leave, I would love for you to reiterate in terms of persons who are interested of becoming part of
Club.
the club.
Yeah.
How can they register? They can come in and speak to you. And of course, it's been extended to the youth as well, but we're looking at diverse. If you have a meaningful contribution and you would love to be part of that group, for sure, you can contact the manager or walk into the office of the PMA. This is located on Sedania Alexander
Alexander,
Street.
yes, the corner of Sedani Alexander Street and Lower Victoria Street, or opposite Miss Sandra's Boutique. And like I said, the telephone number 468 6650 5152. These are the extensions. You can call in, or you can just walk in and ask for an application form to become a member of the PMA. Some of the other responsibilities that we have to monitor the physical development activities and changes in the biodiversity within the PMA, report any of these illegal activities, and coordinate responses to the management. We also have what is called PMAC, Piton Management Advisory Committee, and it includes various stakeholders who come together periodically to have meetings to discuss challenges or anything that is affecting the PMA. We also want to arrange periodic meetings with the stakeholders so they know what is expected of them, so that they don't maybe go and just build something unknown, and then it can be seen from the sea at a certain height, or from an aerial view within the PMA, because that can cost us to lose our status if we do not follow the required standards.
Okay. Will there be in terms of like AGMs?
Well, we don't have AGMs. It's the PMAC meetings.
Okay.
And then, like you rightly said, when there's a convention, then countries that have the World Heritage status, they come together to discuss issues. So, if you, for example, have gone overboard with something within that area, you might be on the endangered list. And if you are not able to correct what it is that has gone wrong, then you can be delisted.
Okay. And I think a lot of the times these things happen, or people find themselves on the wrong side of the law per se, with lack of information a lot
Yes,
of the
yes,
times. And I
yes.
think our medium can be used for sure, maybe even with you now,
Yeah.
to come in as often as you can and share, on
Yes, yes.
let our people know more or less of what is happening. So in the event that there may be a situation, persons will not come across as I didn't know or I
Yes,
wasn't aware. And
yes.
sometimes they may still say, I am not wrong.
Yes, 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 yes. That this is so true. Yes, so we need to have these periodic meetings with them, and to keep them abreast and updated as to what is happening.
But then even maybe you have a program as well, if it's fortnightly, just something short. The PMA presents, and persons can get maybe just little PSAs or guidelines or whatnot as well.
Yes, so as soon as we get things established in terms of the club and stuff like that, I think it would be a good idea to do that. And as you mentioned, ideas to keep people abreast. I just want to mention a passant is totally away from the PMA. I had an experience trying to get my passport renewed. So I think really you should invite one of the people from the passport office. Like we have a Eubarcus Alphonse who's right here in Soufrière and he's on vacation. And I learned so much from my experience trying to get a passport. So maybe you can have him on the show.
Okay. Just before you leave, someone was actually asking a question in terms of what is the update on the hotel that was being built on the Piton?
Well, exactly as I said, the owners are building. They have built, it's not really well, from what we know, it's not a hotel, the residential home. They have made applications to develop further, but they are waiting a response from physical planning. And like I said, when we compared our um, photo from 2013 with what we took now, it's not visible from the sea. So based on that, we can safely say that they are within the standards, the LAC standards, limited acceptable change. But in terms of an aerial view, you would see the structure on the piton. But from the sea, the GPS point where we took that photo in 2013 and now is unchanged.
Okay. It is now 2 minutes after 11 in Surface and Lucia and the Eastern Caribbean. Very interesting discussion. I wish I could have kept you up until 12, but duty calls, assignments, there are assignments to attend to. It's a great pleasure as always coming in and sitting here, of course, in another capacity. I look forward to having more discourse from you and anything else new as we go along the way, progressing nicely with having persons coming on, being part of the club and shedding some light in the community with the business of the PMA. I welcomed you. This is an open door policy as well. You can come in.
Yes,
Feel
thank
free
you.
to dialogue with us. Our platform is here to spread out whatever information you may have as well, announcements and notices.
Yes.
Do not hesitate.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
What would you like to leave in closing, of course?
Well, yes. In closing, I would like to reiterate that we are on a recruitment drive, trying to get members for our PMA club from ages 12 and up, young adults as well, even if you have left school, persons who are interested, persons who are interested in the environment, in national trust, in your patrimony, the cultural and natural and cultural heritage. You're free to join. You can come to the office, at the PMA office on the corner of Danley Alexander Street and Lower Victoria Street.
Opposite Sandra's Boutique.
Yes, opposite Sandra's Boutique.
Not everywhere on the streets.
Yes, and or you can call 468-6650, 5152. Thank you.
What days?
Well, Monday to Fridays from 8:30 until 4. We're open. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. But I just need to say before we end this discussion, I love women empowerment. To you, I say kudos.
Thank you.
For the different portfolios you've held and you continue to
Yeah.
be a mover on a shaker. I
Yes.
applaud you on that one.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah.
88.5 Birds of FM. This is where we end our house guest discussion for today, the 29th of March, 2023. It has been a great pleasure sitting in here, keeping you company, and of course, facilitating the manager of the PMA Peter Management Area. Tomorrow, I continue with our deputy mayor, Mr. Cletus Didier.